Greetings, listeners. Howard and I spoke with a very special guest. He has an incredible 40-plus year career in Biglaw with several firsts. Most recently, he is the former CEO of the first UK law firm publicly traded to be taken private. Today, we discussed his extraordinary career, leading the charge of DLA Piper, becoming the largest law firm during 2005. Then, his invite to join DWF before it listed publicly, and then the go private transaction with Inflexion. Nigel brings lots of insights to the office of chairman and CEO for law firms today, their challenges, and leaves them with a call to focus on strategy and leadership. Welcome, everyone, to the Future is Bright podcast. My name is Chris Batz, and joined by my co-host, Howard Rosenberg. Howard and I are at the epicenter of law firm talent and strategic growth here in New York City. Howard is partner and head of talent intelligence and acquisition at Barretts & Brunel, and I advise and facilitate corporate law firm mergers at Columbus Street. And today, we have a very exciting guest, Sir Nigel Knowles, former CEO of DWF. Nigel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Nigel, great that you're here. And I was speaking with Chris before kind of our session today, and we're gonna kind of break with protocol. We're gonna ask for the benefit of our listeners, because you've had such an amazing and long career in legal. Give us, or give everyone, kind of maybe an overview for 10 to 12 minutes about your career to date. That would be great to kind of hear from you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, my career has lasted 46 years. So 10 or 12 minutes could be quite challenging, but I will do my best. And it goes back to 1978. Obviously, I was 10 then, because I can't possibly be that old. But basically, I joined a firm in Sheffield, which is a city in the north of England, in 1978 called Broomheads. And it had got 90 people and revenues of about £500,000. And I didn't leave that firm for 38 years. And when I finished after 38 years, that firm was DLA Piper. I was managing partner for the last 20 years. And I was involved probably in 2 or 3 mergers, deals you could genuinely call merger, and about 27 acquisitions. And it was a fantastic time. So from 1978, we moved throughout the UK initially. I remember moving into London in 1991 when all the City of London firms wondered how on earth we thought we could make progress in London with all that competition around us. So that was a really good challenge, and we enjoyed proving them wrong on that. Then we went through Europe, then we went through Asia and the Middle East and Australia, and then we merged with Piper Rudnick and Gray Carey. It was a 3-firm merger in 2005. And the timing was perfect. And I'll just make a comment now. We get a lot of good comments about that merger. And indeed, it was a great merger, and the people were fantastic. And my co-CEOs, Lee Miller and Frank Birch, were just great people. And we always got on. We really did share the same culture and values. And we really did enjoy building what we were building. But the great thing about that time in 2004, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is the world was really, really buoyant. And we couldn't have fixed or chosen a better time to do what we did. Just give you a couple of thoughts. In the first year after merger, with further deals and recruitment, we hired 1,000 more people. And in the second year of that merger, we managed to secure $78 million of work from the US around the world to the rest of the firm. That was how good that time was. And Piper Rudnick were the largest firm in the US without anything outside the US. So the choice of firm was fantastic. They were leaving a lot of money on the table, and we were able over a period of time to capture it. So that was fantastic. I would then say that after the global financial crisis, it's been more difficult. I mean, the environment, particularly in the UK, we had Brexit, which I was never in favour of, to put my cards on the table. When we got through that, I retired during that period from DLA Piper because I'd been there 38 years. I'd been managing partner for 20 years. And I thought I should be allowed out for good behaviour. And I thought the firm should start to see life not through my eyes, and I should do something different. And I've got 1 or 2 other things I was going to do as well. So I retired, but I then found myself talking to DWF and they persuaded me in 2017 to join as their chairman. Now, DWF and DLA Piper are not similar firms, so that meant I was able to become chairman of DWF, and I checked it all out with my close colleagues, former colleagues at DLA, and they were happy for me to do that. So I joined as chairman, and soon into that firm, we started talking, this is 2017-18, we started talking about listing, an IPO. And the reasons we were talking about a listing and an IPO were twofold. One, we wanted to be able to raise capital in the market to buy businesses, because we had a very substantial insurance practice, and we wanted to buy more claims handling businesses, more loss adjusting businesses, and businesses that were not legal businesses, but close to and allowing us to do a more vertical operated service for very large insurance companies. So we wanted access to capital. And because we were hiring people who were non-lawyers, we also wanted to make it easy to give ownership to non-lawyers through share options and actually giving shares to these people. So they were the two reasons we IPO'd. And we IPO'd on the 15th of March 2019. And I have to say that on reflection, for DWF, and I'm only speaking for DWF, that was not the greatest decision we ever made, because the world was difficult for all sorts of reasons. Shortly after the IPO in 2020, we were hit with COVID, which was a very difficult period. And the problem with being listed and the problem with being a small cap business is that when things get more problematic, nobody wants to buy the shares. And if anybody wants to sell the shares, nobody wants to buy them, and the price goes down. So we IPO'd at 122p per share. The best we got to was 131p per share. And because, and notwithstanding the fact that we quadrupled EBITDA, the share price went down to 50p. So the listed model didn't work. I've forgotten to mention that in 2020, my predecessor at DWF, the CEO, stepped down, and I was asked by the board to be CEO on the basis that we couldn't find another CEO because we couldn't meet anybody because of COVID. So it was going to be easier for me to be CEO, which I did on the 29th of May 2020, than it was going to be to find a chairman. We could find a chairman. Which indeed we did. So we then set about bringing the DWF back into focus. We reshaped it. We had a new strategy. We actually took out quite a number of people because the strategy that we had, or we thought we had, was inconsistent with the deals that we'd been doing and the people that we were bringing in, and in some cases, the clients we wanted to act for. So we spent a lot of time reshaping it, re-engineering it, and we, as I've just mentioned, saw profitability increase, but the market just wasn't there for a listed company, and therefore we couldn't raise capital to buy businesses. The shares that we'd given to our people were not necessarily worth very much, and therefore it wasn't working for us. So we got through COVID. We then had the Russian-Ukraine invasion, which was more difficult in Europe. I mean, we've got a really great office in Poland, and it's amazing how many of our people in Poland have relatives and friends who've been very adversely impacted by that. So we thought we had to find a solution away from being listed. And in 2022, we started having informal conversations with Inflexion, a large private equity house, who we acted for. We didn't do very much work for them, but we acted for them and we knew them. And we got talking about what it might be like to take DWF private, so delist from the market, and then go again with private equity, which is what we did. So we talked for about 3 or 4 months. Then we pressed the button, and it took about 4 or 5 months to get the take private done and terms with Inflexion. We were bound, of course, by the stock exchange rules, so we couldn't tell Inflexion everything they wanted to know, because if we did, we'd have had to tell all shareholders, which is the rules of being listed. But we got there, and on the 3rd of October 23, we announced the take private. Inflexion, which is a matter of public record, invested £200 million. And we had a bank that invested a similar amount, and the partners rolled over their shares. They had a small amount of cash out, but rolled their shares into the new vehicle. And effectively, we swapped out public equity for private equity. And that worked really well, because when we were listed, every time something happened, whether it was Brexit, COVID, whether it was invasions, we saw high interest rates, high inflation, banks stopped lending, companies stopped investing, they were concerned about their future. And every time something happened, the share price went down. And on the 3rd of October 23, we never had to bother looking at the share price again, because there wasn't one. And Inflexion have proved to be a great partner, and we are making great progress with them. I mean, they are very good, very smart, but do understand that we're a professional services business, and actually they've got to let us run the business, because they can't run a professional services firm, but they're very good at working out what we should be doing in collaboration with them. So that's all worked out, and we're actually doing very well. We've seen profits grow considerably. We've managed to invest into digital transformation and AI and Copilot with Microsoft. We've made lots of acquisitions, quite a lot into Canada and a lot into Australia, and lots of lateral hires all around the world. So it's been a very good journey. So I was never actually going to join another law firm, but I've ended up with 8 years at DWF. And at the end of July, just to give you the final sentence, the end of July, I stood down as CEO of DWF in favour of the absolutely perfect person to take over from me, to lead us through to an exit and beyond an exit, which was always the plan. So I'm now called a special advisor. I thought I was going to do a lot less, but actually in the first week of my role as special advisor, I seem to be doing just as much. But I've enjoyed every moment of it. I've had a really good time.
That's quite an amazing arc of a career to date, Nigel. That's really, really impressive. One follow-up question: why did you want to become a lawyer? What was the driving force behind that?
Well, my father was a grocer and greengrocer with a shop in a small town northwest of Sheffield. So it was nothing to do with following in my father's footsteps. But at school, there was a course on mercantile law, on commercial law, and there was a lecturer there called Arthur Goodwin. And I mean, he's got to have passed away now. This is how many years ago? This could be 50 years ago. And he made the law sound really interesting. And I really got really quite committed to the fact that law was interesting, law was a good thing, and followed it from there, and went to applied to various universities to study law, and got a place and carried on. Now, one interesting thing is I then got a training contract, or articles of clerkship, with a firm called Broomheads, that then became Dibblupton Broomhead, that then became Dibblupton Allsop DLA. So that was all part of the journey. And that firm had 5 article clerks or trainees per 6 months. And every 6 months, they hired or retained one of the 5. And when it came round to my time, they offered the place to somebody else, and he turned them down, and I was the reserve. So everything I've just mentioned to you might never have happened. The guy they'd offered the job to had taken the job, and I'd got to find another firm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nigel, I mean, you've had an amazing leadership run. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you've led these law firms and how your leadership philosophy has either evolved or not. I mean, through your journey, and I'm kind of curious who's influenced that for you.
Well, I think I've had three mentors in my life. One was the former senior partner of Broomheads, the firm I joined, who he died recently at the age of 92, but he had a big role in my life. He used to spend time talking to us about his firm, talking to us about his ambition for the firm, talking to us about how we could play a role in achieving that. And he was really charismatic. He actually, Dibble Upton Broomhead was a founding member of Eversheds. And he was the first chairman of Eversheds, but we couldn't persuade Eversheds at that time, and I'm talking about decades ago, to go to a one-pot profit sharing system. So we pulled out and said we would do it, we would become national on our own. So he was the first mentor. The second mentor was a man called Professor Sir Roland Smith, who was a professor of marketing at Manchester. But in addition to that, he was a member of the Court of Governors of the Bank of England. He was a chairman of Equitable Life, chairman of Associated British Foods, chairman of Manchester United, actually, and did a lot of work with them. And he didn't have any children, and when I became managing partner of DLA Piper, he was on our board as a non-exec board member. This is in 1996. And he really took me under his wing, and he taught me an awful lot. He was a fantastic guy. In some ways, he treated me as if he was a son he'd never had. He was a terrific guy. And he told me to go to Harvard, to the first ever Management and Leadership of Professional Services course under Jay Lorsch, who I'm sure a lot of you will have heard. I went on that course, and again, it just got me really excited about what could happen. And I think one thing I learned from all of that was that if you have a plan and a strategy, and you've got the right people around you, and you work out how you're going to execute it, and you work very hard to execute it, and it's all well thought through, there's nobody who can stop you achieving whatever you want to achieve, apart from your own complacency or declaring victory too soon, etc. So I learned a lot from him. And then the third mentor in life, and I think he's one of the most wonderful men I have ever met, and he taught me more than anybody else, is Senator George Mitchell, because he was Chairman Emeritus of DLA Piper, and he was chairman of DLA Piper. I have to say that it was a fantastic experience, because if you can just imagine, in 2005, DLA Piper had come together, and we had a board, and he was chairing it. And for the first time ever, I've seen really great, constructive, thoughtful behaviour from partners at a board meeting, because was chairing it, and he was just he's a fantastic man. He's a very clear thinker. He's a very great negotiator, and therefore I've been really lucky to have three fabulous mentors who gave me the confidence of thinking that if we want to do something, and we've got a strategy, we've got an execution plan, and we work hard, we can achieve it. And by the way, working out the strategy is like 5%. Achieving it, driving it, is 95%, and that's where most transformational projects fail, because people get bored, or they declare victory too soon, or whatever.
So on that topic, Nigel, what's been the hardest thing for you to achieve in your leadership positions? What was the hardest decision that you've ever had to take, being at the helm of the firm?
I'm not sure. There was a difficult moment back in the DLA Piper days when we'd assembled lots of offices in Europe, and we needed them to start behaving not horizontally as separate offices, but vertically through the practice group business streams. And the heads of the offices were, I mean, I'll mention it now because I'm not going to offend anybody, but they were the country barons who thought while ever they're in charge of the office and in charge of P&L and in charge of their partners, they can decide what they're going to do, which is not necessarily consistent with what the firm as a whole needs to do. And therefore, moving the horizontal to the vertical was critical. And when you do that, and say you're a corporate lawyer in London, you are motivated to look for clients with offices in Germany who might want some corporate work done there, and then introduce their colleagues to their clients to their colleagues all around the world. So I banned two expressions. One was cross-selling, because I thought that a partner should automatically, it's part of the job to find ways of introducing clients to your colleagues all around the firm. And the second thing I banned was people using the word network to describe the firm. We are not a network. They were, so is DWF, a firm. So you share you try and introduce your colleagues to your clients all around the world in the firm, not in the network. So I think that was a period that we had to get right and did.
Yeah. Nigel, your journey, I mean, you've seen more than many, many, many leaders because you've seen so many different iterations and a lot of firsts. I'd love for you to share your perspective on two topics that are intertwined, which is capital and incentives. And maybe pull in compensation with that too. But being that you're at DWF, which I believe, I mean, it allows non-attorney ownership, obviously through the ABS structure and the IPO, but the evolution, and now that you guys are private equity owned, we're faced with the reality of private capital coming to the United States. It's active in Europe, and it's very active where you guys are. And I'd love for you to share either the pros and cons, the challenges to the partnership model, to the reality of becoming more like a business within a law firm context that receives private capital, and the powers at B, and the benefits of incentives with capital, and how that makes it more competitive, and even the use of that capital, maybe as you described with DWF, landing new talent, attracting talent, retaining it. I'd just love to riff on that some. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, that's a big question. I'll try my best. First of all, in terms of acting as a corporate, I think many firms, the larger firms, already do that. If I think about DLA Piper, we got to having one partners meeting every 2 years for two reasons. First of all, it cost $10 million every time we had a partners conference. And secondly, when you've got 1,300 partners attending a meeting, you don't actually decide very much. And we spent a lot more time on clients and how we were going to grow the cake. So I think a lot of firms are already corporatized. But I think in relation to capital, I'd make a number of observations. I think that the market's got to consolidate. So my understanding is that the global legal market's $1 trillion US, and not one law firm has got more than 2/3 of 1% of the market, which if you contrast with the four big accountancy firms, they've all got about 20% of the market. And there is a huge, there's a huge push now to invest in digital transformation, in AI, and to grow. Because I think, generally speaking, firms have got to be super niche, or they've got to be quite big. And if you're in the middle, I think it's going to be more difficult. And I think that's where consolidation will take place. And I think consolidation today is more difficult and costly than it was when the DLA Piper, Rudnick, Gray Carey merger took place. It was a 3-firm merger. So I think having capital to invest in the business is a very good thing, and it can't just exist anymore. This is my view, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch this will disagree with me. A firm is going to find it more difficult just to exist, to maximize partners' earnings. You're going to have to spend more time and money building out the business and probably growing it or specializing it in particular areas. So I think capital is a very good thing. Also, let's not forget that if you get that right, and you introduce private equity and you really develop the firm, there is quite a lot of capital to be earned by the partners, which means that for the first time ever, partners are going to be able to leave with some capital, and that can also be tax advantageous, and it can also be, for many people, a seven-figure number and multiples of a seven-figure number, and that's never happened before. So I think for all sorts of reasons, capital is quite important. And we if you take DWF, and this is not a secret, I'm not saying anything that's not public domain. We needed a real push in terms of our technical support and the way that we deliver service. And Inflexion said, we agree with you. We'll make £12 million available, and we are spending £12 million making sure we really are good in the way we serve clients. Now, if in a traditional law firm you'd gone to a partners meeting and said, look, are you all happy to earn a bit less because we're going to spend £12 million on improving the way we deliver service, you'd have a difficult time. So I think that's why capital is important, and I don't think it's to be feared. There are two things. First of all, the firm's got to want to do that for the right reasons. And secondly, you've got to choose the right private equity firm who you genuinely get on with. And thirdly, I think, if there is a third, you've got to realise that they will want a return. So you've got to have a business that can grow, that can achieve, that can throw off cash, grow profitability, probably expand, and deliver that return.
So Nigel, I have a crystal ball question for you. With your comment about market consolidation, the three big forces that are acting on the industry, talent is very costly, private capital coming into the business, IT really kind of, entering the profession in a much larger way. If you can go back and rerun your career, and you had the task to kind of go out there and build a firm, would you do it through kind of the traditional legacy route, or would you kind of blow the whole thing up and do something in a very different way because of those three forces that are acting on the industry today?
Well, first of all, it depends which time frame you're talking about, because when I did it, it was the only way to do it. If you were doing it now, you would look for external capital and grow very quickly, I think.
Very interesting. Nigel, how would you speak to law firm leaders today in helping them understand the psychology as it relates to capital and the governance that has to change within a partnership, as you kind of alluded to in the reality of taking that? Because I think the ones who get it are going to do great, but there's some intense needs to overcome. There's some hurdles there.
Well, I think just to comment about Inflexion, people used to enjoy saying Inflexion have bought DWF. And I always say, no, they haven't. They have invested in DWF because partners still own more than 30%. And partners owned in the higher 30% when we were listed. So what we actually did was swap out public equity for private equity. So point one, you don't sell everything. You retain a substantial interest, which is what you need to do in order to incentivize your partners. Secondly, I was talking to somebody 3 or 4 weeks ago who said to me, interestingly, I think we need to do something something similar to what you've done, because I reckon there's between 3 and 5 million of excess costs that we could do with taking out. And my point was, well, don't go to private equity for that. Why don't you do that anyway? So I think law firms need to start having a strategy, working out what it is, and working out how they're going to achieve it, and having the right core values and culture. And they've got to drive the changes that are needed to deliver for them a great future. And they can't just sit back and say everything's going to be okay. I don't think it is. I think there is going to be a change, and I'm certain there is going to be more consolidation. And you don't want to get weaker before you make those changes.
So Nigel, again, on that topic of consolidation, and this is relating to kind of the bigger law firms on the planet, do you see a scenario where some of the practice groups that exist within some of these much larger firms, could they be ripe for kind of launching themselves into the marketplace because they're under rate pressure, maybe they're difficult personalities, but they're not growing at the same rate as other parts of the firm? And to your point, consolidation, you have to kind of make strategic choices about things that you're investing in and other things that maybe the love is finite. You can't love everyone in the firm. Love to kind of hear your thoughts on something like that.
That's down to strategy and what you're trying to achieve and what you need in your firm in order to be able to achieve that. So if it could well be argued that if you are a global full service law firm, you need everything you've got to be able to respond to a global client's needs. And there might be periods of time when they have less work to do, and then there might be periods of time when they are very, very busy. So it all moves around. But it all comes down to strategy, and people have got to work out what is it they want to do? What services do they want to provide to what sort of clients, where in the world, and what's their go-to-market strategy? And it's amazing how many people don't actually have a crisp answer to what it is they're trying to do.
In fact, Chris and I were talking about this very topic before today's recording, that we're always amazed about law firm leaders can't seem to have a very well articulated elevator pitch about why they are different, why they are unique in the marketplace. Because to grow, you have to make certain decisions, and you can't do everything for everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of vanilla out there. There's a lot of vanilla. Nigel, I mean, the UK has just pioneered so much of this, of the liberalization of professional services with the ABS structure back in 2011 and 2012. I would welcome your thoughts around the concept of, and so obviously the US is starting to gravitate and become more open to this. There's a lot of concern and stronger emotion in the United States with that taking place, but states are taking it on their own to make this happen. I am hearing rumor, and I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're seeing this in Europe as it relates to public accounting acquiring law firms, them partnering together, or even with consulting. And you almost, what seems like, I'm just kind of picturing just a real amalgamation of professional services over one roof that has all these different things together. Is that where it's all headed?
I think, well, again, it depends what the strategy of the company is wanting to achieve. But I can tell you, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that private equity, and a lot of private equity from the US, is looking around Europe at how they can put things together. And I think they are very, very interested in professional service firms. And they have invested in so many accountants, for example, Grant Thornton, and very, very many in Europe, that they're now thinking, well, we've done the accountants, we better move on to law. So I actually think there's a lot of interest in innovative transactions involving law firms, but it could well involve other things, definitely in Europe. And I'm hearing that there are changes afoot and plans in the US as well.
Yeah, yeah. Nigel, you have the ear of managing partners of corporate law firms around the world right now listening to this show. What last minute advice would you give them?
Well, I think get a guiding coalition of people within their firm who don't necessarily need to be the existing board members. Work out what they think they can do well and plan on executing and driving it through, becoming the unstoppable force. Because I think if a firm has got, say, 20% of the people in it who don't want to do anything, you can't listen to them. They can't determine how their actions are going to adversely impact on 80% who want to do something. And I remember in Davos talking to an executive director of Unilever, and he was talking about the problems with middle management, and he said what you've often got are some really great people at the top of an organisation, and then you've got people, say, I don't know what age group he was thinking about, but people under 40 or under 45 who've got lots and lots of excitement about life, and then you've got the curse of middle management somewhere in the middle of the firm who just want to hang on doing what they're doing without any change until they retire. And they can be really, really, really difficult people to deal with, but they've got to be dealt with. And I don't think anymore you've got the luxury of saying, well, every year we're going to earn a bit more money and every year we're going to generate a bit more cash and life's going to be fine. I think that is a more difficult position to take, and therefore I think strong leadership is needed. And a leader, by the way, is not a manager. A leader works out the strategy and motivates and inspires people to follow it. And a manager executes on the strategy. I think you've got to choose the right people to do the job that's needed to be done.
So notwithstanding the challenges on the horizon and the forces that are all kind of working around, are you bullish on the industry long term?
Oh, yeah, I'm very bullish, and the reason I'm bullish is that I believe there are so many alternatives for the right opportunities, rather, for the right people to do good things. That why wouldn't you be excited about that prospect? I think that some really interesting opportunities are out there, and people need to pursue them and can't pretend they're not happening.
Yeah. So, Nigel, we know that you're stepping down. I believe it's senior advisor is your new title.
Yeah.
If a law firm comes and knocks on your door, is there any reason why you would talk to them?
Well, I can tell you that I've agreed that I will not. I will not be attached to another law firm until after exit with Inflexion, which is only the right thing to do. And I really love that firm, and I think it's got a fantastic future. And I would not want to do anything that made it difficult. And I want it to be successful. I put together the delisting and the Inflexion take private, and why wouldn't I want to see, if I'm still there, which I hope to be at the time of the exit, it will be a fantastic opportunity for the way I could end my career in the law.
Very good. Nigel, finish this sentence for me, please. The future is bright because...
I think I've already answered that, because there are so many opportunities out there that people who are motivated to exploit them will have got plenty to go at.
Yeah.
I think there's no shortage of opportunity for people who think in that way.
Yeah. It's a terribly exciting future.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Nigel, how can people find you on social media?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, and if anybody wanted to find me, I'm easily contacted by email, and I'm always happy to have a chat with anyone who wants to talk. I find it interesting talking to people.
Wonderful,
fantastic.
Nigel, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it, Nigel.
My pleasure. Yep.